Hi folks, my name is Nitika Gupta. I'm a program manager lead in the identity division at Microsoft. My team focuses on identity security capabilities like Azure AD Conditional Access and Azure MFA.
Hello, I'm Dilip Radhakrishnan, Group Program Manager with the Microsoft Endpoint Manager team. My team focuses on helping our customers manage and secure their PCs, Macs, and mobile devices.
In this session, Dilip and I will talk about the proactive approach to cybersecurity using Zero Trust. 2020 has been an unprecedented year. In terms of technology, there are two major events I want to highlight. One is the sudden shift to remote work. Pre-COVID, talking to organizations about digital transformation, they had a timeline which spanned anywhere from months to several years. In response to COVID, the digital transformation timelines have shrunk dramatically. Companies had to enable remote work and deploy identity security in a matter of weeks. Second, we saw a complex, multifaceted attack which emphasized the importance of defense in depth. In addition to the evolving work pattern and sophisticated attacks, we continue to see an increase in the threat landscape. Instead of waiting for the next big event and reacting to it, it's important to have a proactive cybersecurity approach for now and the future. That's where Zero Trust comes in play. Microsoft Zero Trust is a proactive approach to security that uses continuous verification and adaptive controls to protect against threats in real time. The Zero Trust approach outlines three core principles. First, verify explicitly. Always authenticate and authorize based on all the data available, including the user, the device, the location, the service, the data, the network. Use least privileged access. Limit user access using just-in-time and just-enough access principles. Lastly, always assume breach. Constantly monitor your environment and prevent threats in real time. Next, Dilip will walk us through how to apply these principles.
Thanks, Nitika. Today, there is a lot of marketing buzz in the security industry around Zero Trust. But it is really important to understand that Zero Trust cannot be accomplished by deploying just one product or technology. It is a journey. At Microsoft, we've come up with a three-stage maturity model to help our customers do continuous assessment of their state and transition from a traditional on-prem system to advanced hybrid architectures, and then fine-tune their policies to take it to an optimal state. For example, if you take the world of devices, a traditional security model would be to register these devices with on-prem Active Directory and manage it with group policies. A more advanced customer would do hybrid AD registration and require devices to be MDM managed. And then in an optimal state, not only are these devices registered and managed, but they're also monitored actively for threats and automated remediations. The example I provided around devices was one component of a broader Microsoft Zero Trust architecture. There are 6 foundational elements in this architecture. Number 1, the identity component ensures that only trusted users have access to your resources. And then number 2, only managed and compliant devices are allowed to connect. Number 3, the data should be protected from accidental and malicious leaks. Number 4, applications should be hardened to reduce risks. And number 5 and 6, the core infrastructure, including your private data centers, the public cloud infrastructures, along with your network, should be secured. Across all these workloads, we provide a centralized policy-driven access control system, along with analytics for threat detection and automated remediation. Now, in the next 20 minutes, Nitika and I would like to demonstrate 5 actions that you can take right away to begin your Microsoft Zero Trust journey.
Thanks, Dilip. The first action is to explicitly verify all your users with multi-factor authentication. Hopefully, it's no surprise to any of you that passwords are no longer good enough. Password spray attacks have increased by 230% in 2020. The majority of the attacks that we see on our identity platform are all related to passwords. Multi-factor authentication can prevent 99.9% of these identity attacks. As you're thinking about deploying multi-factor authentication and developing your strategy for authentication methods, you should deploy the most secure usable, and cost-effective methods for your users. Telecom-based methods like SMS and voice can provide an additional layer of verification on top of passwords, but they are prone to other attacks, and end users need phone connectivity, and it may even cost the end users. Microsoft Authenticator app provides a better experience where the user can simply approve a notification or use a one-time passcode to verify their identity. While augmenting the passwords can strengthen your credentials, the best way to go is to eliminate passwords completely in your environment. Enough of theory, let me show you how with some demos. In this demo, I will show how authentication method insights can help you make business decisions and proactively improve your MFA coverage. I'm in the security experience in Azure AD, which is the one-stop shop for all identity security capabilities. Here, I will click on the authentication methods. This takes me to the authentication method policy, where I can manage all the methods that are allowed within my organization. I'm interested in the insights, so I'll go ahead and click on activity. This is the enhanced authentication methods experience that we are shipping at Ignite. Here on the left, you can see what methods the users have registered. On the right, I can see how successful users are in registering those methods. Looks like all the users are able to successfully register FIDO security keys, which is great. I see a user failure for software token. Let's dig deeper. Here I can see all the details about this failure, including the username, when the user tried to register. I can quickly follow up with this user to ensure that they are successfully set up with the Authenticator app. Next, I want to understand the usage of these methods. Here I can see that most of the sign-ins are protected by multi-factor authentication. That's expected because I've rolled out MFA to my entire company. However, I see 208 sign-ins which are not protected by multi-factor authentication. This is something I did not expect, and I need to quickly close on this to ensure that I have comprehensive MFA coverage for my entire company. By simply clicking on this chart, I can see all the details of these sign-ins that are not protected by multi-factor authentication. I can understand who these users are, the apps that they're trying to access, when they try to sign in, and with this information, I can quickly go ahead and fix my multi-factor authentication policies. To proactively verify your users with multi-factor authentication, leverage the auth method insights I showed earlier. Those insights are available using Microsoft Graph APIs and can be easily integrated with your SIEM tools. To summarize the actions for sign-ins not protected by MFA, use conditional access to enforce MFA for all sign-ins. If you have low usage of Microsoft Authenticator app and passwordless methods, make sure that you've enabled Microsoft Authenticator app and passwordless for your organization. Drive end-user campaigns to promote those more secure and usable authentication methods. Lastly, if you're seeing low success rates for registrations, ensure that you're driving end-user guidance, helping them on how to register and use multi-factor authentication. The second action is to drive comprehensive adaptive access coverage. With Azure AD conditional access, you can apply adaptive access based on users, application, data, device, and network. And you can also enforce a range of controls, including session controls. Now, the key thing here is your environment is as secure as the weakest link. Any gaps in your policy coverage will be discovered and exploited. That's why we are continuously investing in insights to help you easily understand your policy coverage and proactively fix those gaps. Let's show you how. I'm in the Azure portal in the Azure AD management experience. I will click on workbooks. Here are all the out-of-the-box workbooks for Azure Active Directory. In this case, I want to show you the newly shipped CA Gaps Analyzer workbook. Within the Gaps and Recommendation workbook, I can see gaps by different attack vectors. Let's get into the details. For legacy authentication, I can see that there is one user who's able to sign in using legacy authentication for Exchange Online. For apps, here are all the apps that can be accessed without CA by some users. Further, I can see who those users are, and I can quickly take these insights to proactively update my existing conditional access policies. Next, I can see that user Deanna Smith is at high risk, but she's not part of the CA risk policy. I must have granted her exception at some point. I can quickly check my exceptions for the risk policy and remove Deanna from it. Lastly, this visualization shows me locations where I have gaps in the CA policy coverage. I can easily see the user information, and with this information, I can modify my existing policies to drive comprehensive coverage. With CA Gap Analyzer, you can quickly identify any gaps in your policy coverage and proactively drive full coverage for your environment. With that, I will hand over to Dilip to walk us through the next two actions.
Thanks, Nitika. Let us now see how to ensure that only trusted and healthy devices have access to corporate data. There are two main use cases for device management. The first is a set of devices that are corporate owned, and second, a set of devices that are personally owned or part of a partner organization. To address these two use cases, there are two technologies: mobile device management that provides a rich set of security controls to secure the devices, and as well as mobile application management, which provides the ability to protect the data at an application level. Both of these models are complementary to each other. Our recommendation is in both cases, customers should enable conditional access policies to explicitly verify and enable access only to trusted devices and applications. There are three simple steps to achieve that goal. Number one, ensure that all the devices get a baseline of security policies. Number two, check if their configurations are drifting from the desired state. And number three, monitor for device threats and restrict compromised devices from accessing corporate data. Let's do a quick walkthrough of these three steps. In Microsoft Endpoint Manager, we have now introduced a dedicated endpoint security blade. This is a one-stop shop for all your endpoint security configuration needs across all OS platforms. One of the features that you will find very useful is called Security Baseline. This feature allows a customer to take a Microsoft recommended best practice and customize it to suit their needs. In this screen, you will see me customizing the BitLocker policies for encryption. Once you have a baseline configuration, you need to now define a compliance policy to continuously monitor if these settings are drifting from the desired state. To do that, you come into the compliance policy node, select the OS platform. In this example, I chose an Android device. Next, you can then specify what are the core requirements that the device has to meet in order to be viewed as a compliant device. In this case, I have specified the device should have an alphanumeric password of at least 6 characters, and the device needs to be encrypted. For customers who are further along on their zero trust journey, we also recommend that they enable Microsoft Defender for Endpoint to monitor the devices to ensure that there are no malicious apps and then there are no other security risks on the device. The customer can modify the acceptable device risk threshold as to whether the device should be in a high, medium, or low risk state. Let us now take a look at the end user experience. The user is using an Android device that is managed and secured by Microsoft Endpoint Manager and Defender for Endpoint. Let us say they install an app from the Google Play Store that has some risky behavior. Right immediately after the app is installed, you'll notice that the Defender product detects the risky app and notifies the Microsoft Endpoint Manager, which then in turn cuts off corporate data access. Now, the user is unable to use his Outlook app to check his work email. They are then redirected to uninstall the malicious app. Once they uninstall it, the access to the corporate data is restored and they are able to access email from their Outlook app. To summarize, use the Endpoint Security node in Microsoft Endpoint Manager to do three things. Number one, leverage security baselines and templates. Number two, define compliance and conditional access policies. And number three, set threshold for acceptable device risk level. Now, let us take a look at how to enable your security operations team to lower cost and increase their effectiveness in monitoring for threats. The digital estate in your organization has grown into a complicated constellation of identities, applications, data, virtual machines, endpoints, and IoT devices. Siloed solutions simply cannot address the scale and complexity. Azure Sentinel is both the SIEM, which is a security, information, and event management solution, as well as a SOAR, a security, orchestration, automation, and response solution that connects the dots across all these workloads to provide rich and actionable insights to strengthen your security. You get the benefit of billions of security signals that we process daily to provide meaningful insights. Let's do a quick walkthrough of key Azure Sentinel features. This is the Azure Sentinel portal that is used by the security operations team. One of the first things you notice is the significant number of third-party connectors to Azure Sentinel. Whether your data is on-prem in a private cloud, AWS, or Azure, or whether your networking stack is protected by a third-party VPN or a proxy solution, all those products have connectors to Azure Sentinel and send us the logs and signals. A major pain point for SOC teams today is the complexities of manual analysis of security incidents and threat hunting that impacts the productivity and ability to focus on critical security events. With Azure Sentinel, we have playbooks with predefined workflows. These are very simple, low-code, no-code workflows that the customers can either take it as is, or you can easily customize by adding additional custom triggers and actions. This is a very simple drag and drop interface to automate complex workflows. Another feature is the ability to provide deep insights and connect the dots when investigating an attack. Let us look at the list of security incidents. And here, I am zooming in on one instance of a password spray attack. Password spraying is a type of brute force attack in which a malicious actor uses a single password against targeted user accounts before moving on to attempt a second password and so on. We can see that there is a user Sam whose account might have been compromised and access happened from an unfamiliar IP address. When you click on that user, we are now noticing that there are 29 other alerts related to it. Drilling down further, we can visually see the security signals from all services that can now be used to narrow down the root cause of the issue, its impact, and the options to remediate it automatically. So we have 3 calls to action here. Use Azure Sentinel and Microsoft Threat Protection to 1. Connect all your apps and services to Sentinel. 2. Create low-code, no-code automation using playbooks. And 3. Investigate incidents using data aggregated from multiple services to narrow down the root cause quickly. Now back to you, Nitika.
Thank you, Dilip. On to the last action, which is to continuously verify and protect your data and actions. Adaptive access extends to the session. Based on the conditions at the time of access, user can either have full access or limited access. Risk is evaluated continuously during that session, and access can be revoked anytime the policy is no longer met. This Ignite, we are announcing the ability to apply policies to data and actions within the app. This will allow you to require higher security for your sensitive actions and data while allowing users to be productive. Let's show you how. In this demo, I'm an end user and I'm in the My Application portal where I can see all the apps that I need to get work done. Here, I'm looking for SharePoint. By clicking on SharePoint, I can get single sign-on to the SharePoint application. Here, I am in the SharePoint app. I recently started working on this project called Project Saturn, which is a new product Microsoft plans to announce at the next Ignite. When I go to the SharePoint site for this Project Saturn, this is what I get. This may be because Project Saturn is a super secret project and I need to be on a compliant device to access those documents. Now switching gears to the IT admin side of things. Here I am in the Microsoft Information Protection experience. Here I have the super secret label that was used for Project Saturn. Within this super secret label configuration, I've set up conditional access settings. Here I can pick the right conditional access authentication context for my super secret label. This is the configuration that blocked the user Deanna when she was trying to access Project Saturn SharePoint site from her non-compliant machine. Now let's take a look at the CA configuration. Here, I can see the newly added search, sort, filter capabilities that hopefully are making your day-to-day experience better. Let's go ahead and create a new policy. Here you can see that you can now create policies for authentication context. In addition to applying policies to cloud applications and user actions, you can now apply policies to authentication context. And within here, you can pick the right authentication context you want to apply the policy to. Within the conditional access experience, you can also find the new authentication context experience where you can manage and create new authentication context for your scenarios. To summarize, you can now secure data and actions within your application using authentication context. I showed you how you can create a conditional access policy for authentication context and require that particular authentication context within a workload like Microsoft Information Protection. To summarize the actions here, continuously monitor your sessions using continuous access evaluation and conditional access app control. Secure actions and data using our new capability authentication context. To summarize, here are the 5 actions for a proactive approach to cybersecurity using Zero Trust. Use authentication method insights to drive the use of the most secure, usable methods in your organization. Use conditional access gap analyzer and recommendations workbook to drive comprehensive adaptive policy coverage. Use Microsoft Endpoint Management baselines and monitor device risk. Use Azure Sentinel for threat investigation. Lastly, use authentication context to secure your data and actions. Thank you. You can find all the Zero Trust resources at our Zero Trust landing page at aka.ms/zero-trust. There's a ton of good content there, including our maturity model, deployment guidance, assessment tool, and a business plan. Thank you again for your time and hope you learned something new in this session.